Welcome to Your Time to Thrive with personal fitness coach Jason Stevenson.
Hi, friends. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for listening and tuning in, whether you're listening live or recorded. We appreciate you. This is Your Time to Thrive podcast. I'm your host, Jason, and with me today is my amazing friend and co-conspirator in health and wellness and fitness, Benjamin Barber.
Say as many
nice things
as
I
as
can
many
about
nice
you
things as you can as possible.
The newly cut, handsome, genuine teddy bear of a friend.
Thank you. My internet is doing weird things, is it not?
Yes, you are on a delay, and then everything goes fast.
All right, tell people how Bermuda went.
Bermuda, I don't know. It's a great question, actually. I've never been to Bermuda.
Aruba, you jackass, Aruba.
For those of you who are listening or listening on the recorded session, he's asking that for me to talk about where I just was. My wife and I are very lucky to have a timeshare in Aruba. She purchased it some years ago before I came along, and now I'm lucky enough to take part in it. It is our happy place. It's one of the things that we both focus on in our life. We talk about it on the show often, which is balance. Aruba for me is a place of balance. It is a place that you can rock and roll and stay up all night and drink and go to the casinos, or you can sit on the beach and eat fresh fruit. So we spend the majority of the week relaxing, getting some downtime, which is super important for us mentally, physically, psychologically. And we also do my favorite activity, which is scuba diving. It's something that I always wanted to do, actually, was to go scuba diving, to learn to scuba dive, to see another world that is within our world, which is absolutely amazing. If you ever have the opportunity to do so, I highly suggest it. It is still the scariest, awesomest thing that I have ever done in my entire life, because while you're in another world surrounded by thousands of fish and a macro, micro world that is breathtaking, you are still risking your life. And every time I'm down there, depending on how deep we are, obviously, I will purposely roll over on my back and gain perspective on how deep I am, just to remind myself of where I am, and that this is still consciously a very scary, dangerous place. But it always reminds me of that balance that we have in our life, that while we are hurtling along at highway speeds, you're trusting everybody else to not mess up. You're definitely in a life and death situation, and it's scary, but you have to find peace in it. And whenever I'm at depth and risking my life, because if I do something wrong or do something stupid, then I could easily die down there, I have to remind myself to just breathe, which was like the first lesson that I learned in it, because everything in your system tells you to not take a deep breath when you're underwater. And when you first put that regulator in your mouth and you go underwater, and the instructor says, okay, stay down there for a few seconds and take some deep breaths. Thank you, Meg. Meg says you deserve a week and that she's jealous. Don't be. Everybody gets their own downtime. But anyway, real quick, whenever you're down under the water and you have to remind yourself to breathe, because literally everything in your system tells you to go up, like shoot up to the surface and breathe air. And it's literally like a meditative process, like to say, it's okay, just breathe. And I've taken that with me. I've taken that and I've explained that, and I've used that with clients for years now, and said that, in our deepest moments of stress, in our deepest moments of fear, in our moments where we don't think we can breathe because we're in a workout, or we don't feel like we can breathe because we're in a high stressful situation, the best thing that you can actually do is to stop and just breathe. Take 3 deep breaths. There you go. And here's Ben breathing for us. The reason I like that lesson, actually, and the reason I use it, is because, frankly, your fight or flight systems like your cortisol systems, your stress systems, your actual adrenaline glands will respond to your hyperventilating. Like if you get into a stressful situation and say you were running from a bear, you would hyperventilate. You would breathe quickly and fast. There is nothing in your body that responds chemically to that process to help you relax. So if you trick your system, even if you're in a high stressful situation and you actually just pause and take 3 slow, deep breaths, you can actually trick your chemical systems into relaxing. Because if you were in a really stressful, life-threatening situation, you would not be able to take those 3 deep breaths.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah. Am I back normal?
That is much more normal. Relatively speaking, sir. I don't consider either of us normal, but you are timed and synced audio, video.
Good. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
So what's up?
Well, that's what happens when you beat the shit out of your computer every day.
You mean ask a lot of its performance?
I mean destroy it. Yeah. This if this computer was a person, I would go to jail. For how I abuse this computer. Yeah. I'm sorry. You shouldn't be like doing it doesn't matter. But my point is, I'm glad that you had a week of rest and relaxation and adventure, and you have talked to me many times about scuba diving and how it now that sounds like my nightmare, right? Like I can't hold my breath in a pool for like more than 10 seconds without freaking out. Like in a real way. If I dive too deep in a pool, I can't jump into a pool because that feeling of when you start by going low before you get up, like if I don't get to the top the first time I do this, my mind goes, "You're dead. You are dead." So the idea that you're down there and you're just staying down there diving is insane. Frankly, I think that you're a crazy person.
Well, that's never going to be proven because I will not take the test. But the truth is that fear that you have,
woman, television.
Yeah. Fact. The truth is that fear that you have is because you do not have access to air unless you are at the surface. When you are down, when you get that panic, like when you get that like, oh shit, I have to breathe or I can't breathe, you have a regulator in your mouth that you can go and you get air. And then you go, oh, okay, I'm okay. I'm all right. I can breathe. And then you exhale and then you think, shit. So you breathe. It takes some time to get used to the process, but that depth process is no longer the fear because you have access to that air. You have that. That's part of your system. Like you have backups, you have other people that you're diving with. So if your air goes down, you can grab their backup. There are processes. And fortunately, there's a training program that you have to go through in order to get a certification to be able to go diving where you learn to deal with that.
Yes, you have access. You don't have excess air.
You'd be surprised. We did a 120-foot dive for over an hour, and I still had air left over.
No.
Yeah,
no.
So crazy.
Crazy. No. I love my favorite part about your vacations is that they give you rest and relaxation and they give me anxiety. You come back after a week and you're all refreshed and ready to go and ready to talk about it. And I'm like, can you stop? Because I'm like, an hour underwater is the thought of that is panic attack inducing. Anyway, it's not really like I'm just playing with you.
No, but
it is scary though.
It is. And let's use that because we're talking about this a little bit today. That's because you connect the concept of what I'm talking about to an emotional, psychological reaction that you have had in a real life situation where you have fear based on the inability to breathe because you can't breathe underwater without a system. right? Like you can't, you dive into a pool, you've never had capacity to breathe underwater. So that's a natural fear. It's real. But that is because there has not been in your life a situation where you could. I promise you, if you gave it a try because of your love of the water, your love of the freedom of swimming and how that feels in the water and how refreshing that feels and how good that feels and how empowering that feels would be tenfold. Because when you're on air, when you have your scuba and you don't have to go up and down, you have complete and utter control of freedom. It's literally flying underwater. You're not swimming because you work at neutral buoyancy, which means that you literally can turn upside down and roll and cartwheel, and we do headstands without thinking about air. So you have complete freedom in a world that is three-dimensionally open to you in every direction.
I'm gonna pass. It sounds wonderful the way that you describe it. It sounds amazing. I'm gonna pass. But more power to you, my friend. Okay. So also I just want to say, speaking about stress and anxiety inducing, at some point I was at 19 peak minutes when I sat down for this interview, and I'm at 20 now. So at some point during your conversation, during your story, my heart rate elevated to the point that my Fitbit thought that I was working out.
Proof of the power of the mind, my friend.
Yeah.
You are nowhere near a life-threatening situation, and you could literally talk yourself into it.
I can talk myself into anything. Yeah. The thought that we can go on my anxiety forever, but what are we talking about today? Other than your beautiful trip
diving
with your wonderful wife.
80-20, my friend. 80-20, which is, and we're there because of that, right? So I don't vacation a lot. We don't think, none of us vacation as much as we'd like to, right? Because you have to earn it. You have to get to that point. It costs money to be on vacation. But I find that not even like going away necessarily, but we all need a vacation, whether it's a staycation. And I know after this last year, the last thing anybody wants is a staycation. But the point is, we need balance, right? We've talked about balance, but what is an aspiration for balance in our life? Whether it applies to our food, whether it applies to our recreation, whether it applies to vacation, whether it applies to, time away from stressful situations. I always suggest to people that they shoot for an 80-20, meaning 80% of the time we're getting good. We're getting what we want. We're getting what we need. We're getting that balance. And 20% of the time is the other side of that. There's always opposing sides to the coin, right? That part of our vacation was 80% of the time we were relaxed and sitting on the beach, eating fresh fruit and fresh fish. And 20% of the time we did some adventure stuff because we did 5 dives, a little bit over an hour each time. But for the duration of the trip, the most of the trip was relaxing and reading and taking short walks on the beach, actually not short. We hiked pretty far a couple of times, but that's the downtime, because we don't live in a world of perfection, right? Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to work out 100% of the time. Nobody's going to eat 100% of the perfect, right? So we want something that's attainable. We want something that is achievable, something that is repeatable, right? So if I hit 80% of the week, I hit my fitness goals. If I get 80% of my food is on point, if 80% of my sleep is deep, good, well-rested sleep, then I have a good week. Then I have a good day. Right?
Yeah. There's I just looked up what 20% of the year is, and it's 73 days. So I would like to start this. So I would like to start this by saying that Jay is suggesting that everybody takes 10 and a half weeks of vacation a year.
But, so let's do some math then real quickly. How many days a week do you generally work, sir?
Me?
Yeah. How many days a week?
7. So
you work all day Sunday too?
I work a good portion. I work a good portion of Sunday.
Okay. How about Saturday?
I do. I have 3 church services on Sunday mornings,
Fair.
and then I have recording sessions on Sunday afternoons.
Okay. So Sunday. How about Saturday?
Saturday I work in the morning, and then I just filled out my Google Calendar for the first time ever, like fully.
I saw that post.
And I color coded everything, and the green was free time or family time, and there was not a ton of it, but there like it was a really significant portion for me on Saturdays specifically. I was like, because there's always like the nature of what I do. There can be an event that pops up. And then like if I take that event, my day is that, so any of the like times are negotiable, but they shouldn't necessarily be. But so for the most part, like Saturday afternoons are from the time I get done with Saturday morning stuff to we do breakfast every Saturday. We do like a brunch every Saturday with the kid, and then I have some stuff at night. But like there's like 8 hours during Saturdays of family time, which is really nice and just fun free time. That's my biggest block of green during the week.
Yeah. That sounds good.
But I think that mental health days should be the new norm, or flex schedules that allow 4-day work weeks. A lot of organizations are moving to 10-hour work days for 4 days a week instead of 8 hours for 5 days a week. I know that when my dad switched to that, he really loved having Fridays off. Of course, then the place that he worked at went into overtime all the time. So they would work Friday and then Sunday because everybody had the choice of Saturday or Sunday, and they chose Sunday because they could make more money, which was a cool choice. I don't know why the business allowed them the choice to work Sundays instead. But yeah, for a long time, it was 10-hour days, and it was only scheduled Monday through Thursday, and it was a lot better. It's a lot easier to psych yourself up to work for 2 more hours a day and get a full day off.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree with you. And while I was being a jackass about the math, like 73 days isn't a lot when you think of like, can you take 1 day off a week? That's 52 days a year. And then if you do get like 1 week of vacation, even, now you're at 60 days a year. And if there are some weeks where you can take multiple days off during that week, or like a full weekend or a 3-day weekend, you can very easily get to 73 days of rest and relaxation. I have a friend who got offered a job. I have no idea what the actual details of this were, because it was a third or fourth party hearsay, but they just recently got offered a job where they were only going to have 10 days off a year. And
that's not a lot.
Yeah, and everyone's reaction was like, well, I mean, we know you like to work, but like health, like mental health and like burnout and not being able to do anything, 10 days off a year is very, very small.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's not worth the money. And here's the side of it that we just talked about is the mental health side of it, right?
It is Mental Health Awareness Month.
It's a good topic for our discussion then.
And tomorrow is Mental Health Action Day.
Ooh, I like that. So here's a challenge, folks. Analyze. Look at your life. Take a moment tomorrow to actually put into action a plan where you feel better. Take some time today and look back. Are you getting the downtime that you need? Are you getting the R&R that you need? Are you getting the vacation time that you need? And it can be just a staycation. We're not talking about spending money here. We just mean not doing normal life stuff, not doing work stuff, not stressing yourself over somebody else's business or just money. just sit in your backyard and take some deep breaths. Right? Ben's favorite office setting now. And for those who are listening recorded, today is a beautiful day. If you're live, get outside today at some point. It is an absolutely stunning day today. Before the humidity kicks in and the heat from the summer really starts up, wherever you are, get outside and take some deep breaths.
I'm training myself right now to wake up earlier and go for my walks earlier, because last Wednesday when you were not here, I went for the walk at like the normal time that I would be talking to you.
Yeah.
And it was like 73 and I was wearing all black. And the walk, which I can't wait for you to go on this walk with me, because it's like a mile and a half. It's really nice. And it's a windy road and like it's beautiful. And it was so hot that coming up the hill, there's this like pretty decent size hill to come home. And halfway up the hill, I checked my heart rate, which I shouldn't have done. And then I freaked out. And then I was like, I'm so hot. I'm so whatever that I just stood against a tree for a minute until I calmed down and then finished the walk. And then the next day I was like scared to go for a walk, and then I did again, and everything's been good. And I have a new rule, which is don't look at my heart rate during a walk. It's fine. I like
the rule.
It's
fine.
Right.
That's right.
And then, but my point was, I've been training myself to get up and go for the walk earlier and earlier so that I can beat the sun.
Yeah.
That's the goal now. Trying to get 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. are my walking times now.
Yeah. Which is great, because then you actually set yourself up for success because you're more comfortable and you're getting it done. Right. So have you been hitting both of those every time? How are you making out?
So the 7 a.m., 7 p.m. thing has only been a few days now. I've been doing the morning and nights for a while, but I decided to try to do that. It's actually because I decided to take a course for that a content creator put out. He's a filmmaker, and he had the mapping out of your schedule to find times for creativity. And I did that. And while I did find times for creativity, I was like, I'm going to color code this, and I'm going to put all of my personal self-care time as a priority. And then that's how I bookmarked the beginning of my day and the end of my day. And I was like, 7 p.m. is good for me because it's when Braden goes to bed. So I don't feel, if it was like 6 o'clock at night, I would feel guilty if I don't try to hang out with him at all. But 7 is really nice and easy, and 7 a.m. is nice and easy because it gives me a little bit of, most of my shows don't start until at least 9 a.m. So 80-20, allowing some wiggle room for things is really important, and not trying to stay 100% on your stuff all the time, because that can drive you crazy. Last night, so I've been trying to go to bed at 10 and get up at 6:30, because I know I'm not going to fall asleep until 11. And last night I went to bed a little bit later. I woke up around 7 this morning. Everything got pushed back 30-40 minutes. But it was great, and breaking stuff down like that, you are not as, you realize you have time to waste a little bit. You have time to know where things fit in, and then it's a more loose fit than if structuring gives you more freedom, which is really nice. You would think that it's the opposite, but it's not. And doing that, I realized that if I went for my walk in the morning, which is usually about 3,500 steps, and my walk in the evening, which is usually about 3,500 steps, and all I did in between was just make sure that every time my little Fitbit rings and says you have 250 steps to win the hour, if I just do 250 steps an hour in between 9 to 5, the workday when it buzzes, if I hit that goal every time, then by the time I go to my by the time I'm done with my 7 p.m. walk, I'm at minimum at 9,000 steps.
Yeah.
At minimum, if I only did 250 steps every hour, which is almost impossible if you hit it, that you're not going to go over. And if I didn't do any walking from 6:30 to 7, or from 7:30 to 9 a.m., or from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., then I would exactly be at 9,000 steps. And that's what happened. And yesterday, 2 days ago was the first time that I broke all of that down like that. And yesterday I hit 10,000 steps by 8 p.m. like it was nothing.
Yeah.
And it's all, and then this morning I wrote in my journal, it's gloomy all of a sudden. This just came out of nowhere. But this morning I wrote when I was doing my morning journaling, I was like, the flexibility of that is great, to not do everything hard all the time, but to find the wiggle room, right? And 80-20 is so great because it works for everything.
Yeah, for your scheduling. You should be scheduled 80% of the time, and 20% of it should be open.
Mm-hmm.
You schedule your sleep, you schedule your food, you schedule your family time, you schedule your work. There should be 20% of your time open. And that's conservatively speaking. Most people I agree with you on the numbers thing, but most average Americans right now are working 5 days a week. It's the average, like a work week, or, that off week, or they work a long weekend because they're in the restaurants, they work 4 days, but most people have 2 days off a week. You need to figure it out, figure out what your schedule is and pay attention. That's why I say analyze your life on a regular basis. Like, look back, because most of the time when I talk to somebody about their food, they're doing much better than they thought they were. They're not happy because things aren't working the way they want to with their fitness, or they're not happy with their belt size. But generally that's because of timing of the food or portions of the food. Most people that I talk to are pretty okay. We're not talking rocket science when we talk food, right? Whole foods, real foods, clean foods, lean meats, get good sourcing. Food isn't that complicated. Like, we know McDonald's shouldn't be on the list, right? But if 80% of the time you eat clean, 20% of the time you can get away with a little bit looser food. You can go out on the weekend. You can have dessert.
Mm-hmm. If
you look back on your life and 80% of your life was good, that's a great life. That's a great life. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I'm not saying you should settle, right? Like, I'm not saying that should be like that. Hey, I hit 80. I'm great, because I don't want 80. My goal is 90-10. But 80-20 is the aspiration for us to find balance, right? We can work off of that.
What do you think about so Tim Ferriss talks a lot about the 80-20 principle, and says, and his, oh no, that's not, all right. I thought that was a different thing. Tim Ferriss talks a lot about the 80-20 principle and uses it as 20% of things take up 80% of your time, and 80% of things only take 20% of your time. And the 20% of things, there's like 20% of things that you do that actually make a difference. Mm-hmm. And like, we should be spending 80% of our time on the 20% of the things that actually make a difference. And like, so your mental health, your work-wise, like the connections that you make, or the, and not stressing about the little stuff, right? Not stressing so much about all of the little things that you do. So like, if you're, how would that Jason, how would that like go to fitness? Like, 20% of the things that you do in the gym or in your health routines that really make 80% of the difference in your life. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of those things?
For sure. Well, it's intensity focus. When we talk about strength training or we talk about cardiovascular conditioning, it's actually working at 80% of your max. It shouldn't be that. And again, folks, don't get me wrong here. If you're just getting to the gym this week and you got in and you did 20 minutes on the treadmill and that was as much as you could do, you got outside this week and you did a couple of walks, but that's the best you could do with the dog, then that's great. You want to work on that, obviously. You're not going to get results from that, but it's going to keep you consistent. So habit, repeatable, maintainable is more important than anything else. If you're looking to affect a change, you need to be working at 80% of your VO2 max. You need to be working at 80% of your strength training on a regular basis, not 100% of the time. That's perfect because you should be working at 80% of your max 20% of the time that you're there. There should be pushes. I taught a class last night called high intensity interval training. We all know it as HIIT. I talked to my class last night about it because when we push ourselves, we should be pushing ourselves to our 75, 80% threshold, which means that if I did 100%, I would die, right? Like 100% of my maximum effort means I'm going to be on the floor afterwards and having to gasp for air for half an hour in order to recover from it. That's not success. Like anybody can make you do burpees until you throw up, folks. But the truth is what you're going to get results from is pushing yourself to a point where it's really uncomfortable for a short duration and then recovering from that as quick as you possibly can. The faster you can recover, the higher your volume of oxygen is, the better your body is at uptaking that oxygen and utilizing it for your system. So therefore you get better at it the more that you push that. But you shouldn't be doing that every time you work out. You should not be pushing yourself to feeling like you're going to throw up or like you can't breathe every time you work out. There should be periodic bursts of intensity. You should have focus with your strength training. So when we do a concentric movement, like if we do a bicep flex and you actually squeeze that bicep when you're doing a dumbbell curl, if you're actually just lifting the dumbbell and I'm counting, you've seen that guy in the gym just throwing the weights up. You're not actually flexing the muscle. You should be putting as much effort as you possibly can into in all of those reps. I can't tell you how many times I've trained somebody and they turn to me at the end of the set and they say, wow, I really felt those last two. And I say, well, then what do you think the other ones were doing? Right? So you should be getting intensity and focus from all of them. It should be enough weight that you feel the movement through all of them. You should have enough focus in the actual movement. I've talked about this for years with people, and we've talked about it on the show. Your strength training should be meditative. You shouldn't be able to carry on a really good conversation and think about what you're having for dinner tomorrow night or what you're going to do this weekend while you're doing strength training. You should be so focused on your breathing and the contraction of the muscles that there is not much room in your brain for else, right? The point of our focus in our 80-20 is that we are doing what is good for us 80% of the time. And that is what our intensity and our focus is on. 80% of your energy should be focused on the task at hand. It's like Ben said, most people spend 80% of their lives doing something that is not helping them, not moving them forward. I mean, I could literally tell you that that's a guarantee because I know that I spend 80% of my TV viewing watching stuff that doesn't do me any good. But that's my balance, right? In the topic. I spend certain amounts of time on a regular basis paying attention to fitness-based things because that's what I do for a professional living. I pay attention to the news because I like to know what's up to date and going on in the world. But I only spend a small portion of my life doing that, right? The rest of it's balance. The food piece for me is the biggest one as far as the 80-20. You look at your plate because remember, we go micro macro with our food. We go right now, we go today, we go for the week, we go for the month, we go for the year, right? 80% of my plate should be fucking fantastic. Portion correct, balanced nutrition, clean, lean meats, fresh, no processing, packaging, flouring, bleaching, sugaring. Then the other 20%, you're good. Have some potatoes. It's okay. You're going to be all right. And again, we're aspiring for that, right? 90-10, 80-20, it floats. But if 80% of the week, 80% of your meals were good, you're going to feel amazing at the end of the week. How have you been doing? How have you been doing on your food? We haven't talked about your vegetarian steps or like moving into new steps. I know with COVID rules changing a little bit, we've been evolving that a little bit.
I mean, I haven't been doing anything differently really at the moment, except for the intermittent fasting, but which has been fairly consistent. I mean, there's a couple days a week maybe where Saturdays being one of them, where I'll have something for breakfast before 2 p.m. But generally speaking, it's a window of like 2 to 10, and it's it's not hyper focused on it yet, and I haven't made any sort of big decisions about what I'm going to end up doing with the plant-based versus not plant-based. And I think so. Actually, and I'm not just saying this because it's the topic of today's episode, but I believe that my goal, as things settle in a little bit more, is that I will probably not go back to being vegan. At the moment, at least. I think that I have a lot of other stuff going on, and to make sure that I get some like lean chicken protein is easier for me. And while not maybe necessarily ideal, it's easier at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think that I will probably end up going about 80-20 plant-based.
That's a great plan, man. I could do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I really could. Because I can't give up a cheeseburger occasionally, or a nice steak, or a piece of fish.
Allie made cheeseburgers last night.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. But that's a clean, that's repeatable, right? Like if you eat the majority of your food plant-based, that's maintainable.
Yeah, that's then you're not where your chicken comes from is as important, or any absolutely
huge sourcing. We're going to talk about that at some point. I'm going to do just a little bit more research on it, so I have some more facts for you folks.
My chicken exclusively comes from Burger King. Is that bad? I'm kidding.
It's not chicken. They did studies. It's not chicken. Even the stuff that looks like chicken, like it's Subway, that's not chicken.
How dare you? How dare you insult the good name of Subway?
Best, do the research. At best, the processed, packaged fast food industry has 80% chicken. At best, 80% of that product that they call you 100%
That's
chicken.
What we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. 80-20. 80-20. 80 chicken. 80 chicken. 20 you don't want to know.
Yeah, don't ask.
Don't ask. Don't ask. Yeah. All right. So
that's a great. There was a great video I watched actually that broke that down. That pulled all these different fast food places and had all of their chicken out and laid it out on a counter. They did a whole data analysis of it. They had a whole blind taste test of it. It was pretty interesting actually, because all those things, like they say like 100% white meat, folks. What that means is. And remember, there's little asterisks and stars next to all of those things. That means that what they're using, the part of whatever it came out and became as a patty, was 100% white meat. That doesn't mean that that product is 100% white meat. Remember, our food labeling in our country is so ass backwards. It's not even funny.
How dare you disparage the good name of the United States of America's food administration?
USDA? Are you kidding me? How many times have you read a juice label that says 100% juice on the label, and then it says right below it from concentrate?
Or 100% juice contains 60% juice.
Yeah. Yes. Don't believe anything you read. Don't believe anything you read on a food label. Do your research, right? You can believe 80% of it. Or given the sourcing of it, right? But Dana, I do appreciate the heads up because the conversation about food goes really deep into that world as far as our sourcing is concerned, because the industrial food situation that we deal with in our country specifically, as well as the agricultural markets that are strip farming, essentially farming the same product on the same land after years and years and years, strips it of the nutrients that it used to give to that product. And now the carrots that you're eating that you think are healthy are not the carrots that your grandparents used to eat. It's not. Some scary stuff out there, folks. Do your research. Eat organic when you can. Go to your farmers markets. Grow it for yourself. We move our vegetables in our garden every year. Don't plant them in the same spot. It's just science.
My carrots actually are the same carrots that my grandparents used to eat. We don't go through carrots very often. So
it's the same carrots. They sit at the bottom of the bin. They don't go bad that fast.
it's great. We leave our potatoes in there, and then the potatoes form new potatoes.
Yeah. That's smart. That's ethical. That's recycling.
All right, moving on. Let's end this show.
Love it. So 80% of the show, hopefully 80% of the show was helpful, factual, informative, and educational.
Wait a second.
The other part.
Wait a second. There was something that you were supposed to do in the 2 weeks. How was your Tuesday, my friend?
I actually had a great day yesterday. I thought about that a lot. There was a conversation in the gym yesterday where somebody else was bitching about being a Tuesday, and I started laughing. I was like, you know what? I'm having a great day. And last Tuesday was amazing. We spent the entire day. We literally, because I don't know if any of you know this, but I don't sleep in. I can't. My body doesn't, even on vacation. So like sub 6 a.m., I'm like, all right, time to get up. I'll go get a chickie, which is like the little palm frond, umbrellaed stand kind of little. I'm terribly describing this, aren't I? It's what you sit under to avoid the blasting heat in Aruba. And it's made out of palm fronds. It looks like an umbrella, and it's called a chickie. And in order to get one decent, like other than sitting back by the bar, you have to get up ass crack, because people literally get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go sit on the beach to get the front rows. So I'd get up at 6 a.m. and go get my chickie and get a cup of coffee and come back and jump on the bed and tell Curse, come on, time to go. Let's go to the beach.
And she looks over at you and looks at the time and goes, I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah. What are you doing? She'll say, did you get us a chickie? And I'll say, yep. And she's okay. So folks, thank you as always for being a part of our podcast. Whether you are live or listening recorded, we appreciate you. You make it part of our life, and we really do appreciate that. So thank you so much. This is the Your Time to Thrive podcast. We talk about all things related to your health and fitness. If you ever have any questions related to your health and fitness, or as you know from this podcast, just ask something, whatever it is, reach out. My website is thrivetrainingteam.com. You can find all the social media links and my email on there, which is where you'd send me a message and ask me that question. Again, I'm Jason. This was with Ben and Your Time to Thrive. You guys have a great and healthy day, and we'll talk to you soon.
For more information, tips, and workouts of the day, check out thrivetrainingteam.com.